Hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. We are going to get started in just a couple minutes. We're going to leave some more time for more attendees to join. We have about 60 people on right now. We'll start at about 1:03 or 1:04. So just sit tight.
Hey everyone, welcome to the webinar, Creating Magic, Augmented Reality Interventions in Child Life. I'm Christina, this is David, we're from Spellbound, and we're happy to have you all here. And we're excited to share some helpful information with you today.
Definitely. So just a couple housekeeping things to get out of the way first, just to make sure everyone's comfortable on the platform. So we're using GoToWebinar for this. On your screen, you should see a GoToWebinar control panel. And this is how you're going to interact with us today throughout the session. First of all, can everyone hear us okay? Why don't you go ahead and raise your hand if you can hear us. The hand is a little icon on the left side of the control panel underneath the microphone button. So I see a couple hands going up. Perfect. Sounds like our audio is working. Oh, lots of hands. Excellent. Well, that's great. So a couple of things to know about GoToWebinar and how to interact with us in the session. First of all, you can ask questions during the webinar chat. And so if you go to the control panel, you'll see an area titled Questions. And at the bottom of the area, there's a box where you can type in your question and then hit send. And so your question will come only to us. So if we think it would be applicable for other attendees, we may also share it with the rest of the audience, but your response, your actual question will be anonymous. We'll just show the response to everyone. We're going to try to answer all questions during the webinar, so fire away. We have Anna from the Spellbound team here who's answering questions. And so we're also going to share out a list of questions and responses after the webinar, just to give you extra value from today. And lastly, this webinar will be recorded, so you'll receive a link to watch the webinar recording afterwards. You can share that with your team or come back and review, or if you have to leave in the middle of it, catch up. And you're all on mute, so definitely if you want to ask questions, send us a question through GoToWebinar or send us a chat message.
Okay, so we're going to do a few introductions right now. just to give a little background on us, my name is Christina York. I started Spellbound because I believe that we can better harness the power of technology to help our most vulnerable patients have a positive journey through healthcare. And I know about the power of child's life firsthand. I have 2 young daughters, and we've had our fair share of hospital visits. But I also know the consequences of when child life is not available for support. When my youngest daughter was 3, we encountered a poo sport for the first time, and it was rather traumatic. So now we insist on having child life present all the time.
And some of the unique challenges that they're facing, and to help them learn about how Spellbound tools can help them deliver better patient experience in their hospital. Before coming to Spellbound, I managed software implementation at higher ed institutions, so colleges and universities. And in the summer, you'll often find me riding my moped around Ann Arbor here in Michigan, where we are. And all year long, I love to eat Korean food. Yes.
So we have a lot of great content planned today. Here's what we're going to cover. It's up on this. It should be up on the screen. We're going to spend the majority of our time talking about how augmented reality can support child life during challenging patient moments, the ways that child life teams are using augmented reality tools now, and what we call core use cases for augmented reality. So before we really get started, I want you to stop and think about how many needle-related medical procedures does your team support in a day? And how often do needle-related procedures for children end up in the use of restraint? How many times do nurses or technicians or parents have to physically restrain children during vaccinations, blood draws, or IV starts? Let me describe a scene to you. There's a family with 5 children that needed to get vaccinations. And one of those is a 5-year-old girl who had to get 5 shots. Now that's a scary situation for little Zahar, pictured here, as you can see on the screen. As you may know, siblings can feed off of and amplify fear, but the child life specialist, in this case, Dawn Klossmeyer, used augmented reality tools to distract Zahar and her siblings during their injections. So we have a video of this intervention that we'll share with you after the webinar, but for now, we're just kind of showing you a slideshow version to make it easier to see in the screen share. So you can see the medical assistant on the right there, also holding the augmented reality tool, which looks like a little card. Images, Zahar barely flinched or paid attention to the side and didn't hold still. And Jenny, the nurse in this situation, said that these might have been the easiest shots that she'd ever given to a 5-year-old. This story just paints a small picture of the power of augmented reality tools and how they can be effective for addressing common procedures that have a high rate of restraints. We'll send a link to the video showing Spellbound working with Zahar after the webinar.
So we know that augmented reality tools, like the ones that Dawn was using, are helping improve the experience of kids in the hospital by decreasing anxiety and pain perception. And we have lots of evidence from child life specialists and child life teams that shows us that's happening. But we also recognize that a lot of child life teams don't know much about augmented reality tools or how they provide a lot of value for child life teams. And that's why we're doing this webinar. So before we get in more to the content of the webinar, I want to first kind of in the beginning cover a definition of what augmented reality is, so that we're all on the same page, we're all thinking about the same things when we talk about augmented reality. We know it is new for a lot of you. So augmented reality adds 3D digital and audio experiences to the real world. So it lets you experience that digital world and the real world at the same time. And this is often called AR, so augmented reality AR. So mobile AR is augmented reality that uses a camera on a device like a smartphone or tablet, devices you often carry with you, especially as child life specialists. And it uses those to see the real world and look for things it recognizes, then add 3D experiences over them. So this could be, in Spellbound's case, a card or a book or a wall decal, or even artwork in the hospital, like a mural on the wall. that when that augmented reality, that device sees that item, it recognizes and adds the 3D experience to it. And we're going to show you a little bit what this looks like in a bit, so hold tight and you'll get to see an example of that. Now, augmented reality is also sometimes delivered on a transparent headset as well, where you can see the real world through the headset that you're wearing. So imagine a virtual reality headset, but it's actually clear so you can see the room around you, but still putting digital information over it. For this webinar, we're going to focus only on mobile AR, so not the headsets, but only the augmented reality that uses a tablet or a mobile phone, since the headsets are not very commonly used at this point. And throughout this presentation, we're going to refer to augmented reality by the acronym AR. And that's because it's commonly what it's called. It's a lot faster than saying augmented reality, which is probably why people use it. So when you hear us say AR tools, know that we're referring to augmented reality tools. So would anyone like to see a live demo of AR tools and what they look like in use? Christina, yeah, I think I'm hearing dozens of voices through the internet telling me yes right now. So I'm going to show you a quick demonstration of what this looks like using Spellbound. So I'll show you our augmented reality tools as an example. Just give me a moment here to change what I'm sharing, and then I'll explain to you what you're seeing. Alrighty, almost there. Okay, so what you're seeing now, and I'll put this little card in front of it. What you're seeing now is the screen of my iPhone plugged into my laptop, so you can see what's happening on the screen. And I have the Spellbound Viewer App open. So most of that is just the camera view, and then there's a menu at the top. So like I said, these augmented reality tools work with a tablet or a mobile phone, so like the iPad that you carry with you or the smartphone in your pocket. And this app allows you, the app that you're seeing on the screen, allows you and your patients to see the magic in the AR tools. So this is running on the app just like you would use it on your iPad in your practice. So I'll show you an example of this. Spellbound's AR tools use a card or a book or a decal to trigger the experience, to show that 3D experience. And so it's just a normal plastic card, but when the viewer on your iPad recognizes the image on the front of the card, it creates the 3D experience that goes along with it. So I know this is going to be maybe a little bit glitchy for some of you if you don't have great internet. Don't worry, we're going to send out videos of this afterwards too, so you can just kind of get the general idea. You can also tap on the device, so I can tap on this Phoenix to see it do an interaction. So it goes back into its egg in the fire and the smoke, just like that legendary Phoenix. And so this is what people mean when they talk about an AR card. It's just a normal, regular card like you see here, but it has an AR experience associated with it. And you can move it closer or further from the camera, and you'll see that it moves with the physical item in the real world, but it has the digital magic that goes along with it. So this is part of what makes augmented reality really special, is the way that it blends the two in a way that especially kids have never seen before, but I'm sure many even on this call, on this webinar, haven't seen before. And so again, you can tap on these different cards to see them interact, and we call this type of tool a journey tool. So it can be used as a quick distraction during a procedure, or for relationship building, just to break the ice with patients. We've heard from child life specialists, they like to use it for that. Or it can also be given away to patients to mark different stages in the treatment journey. So hence the name Journey Tool. I also want to take just a second to show you another one of our tools, kind of on the other end of the spectrum. This is what we call a story tool. And it's a beautiful experience here. That's a full 3D scene. It's a great fit for doing longer distraction during procedures and for doing imaginative play with your patients. So as your patient's tapping on barrels on the screen to explode them, and there's also sounds with this that you're not hearing because it's plugged into my laptop right now, but there's music and sound effects. They can tap on the fish to see them swim away, or open this chest of gold, or tap on the sail to see it furl up. You can imagine asking your patients, how did this ship end up on the bottom of the ocean? Or asking them about the octopus that's living in this ship that you can tap on their tentacle to see them go back in and come back out. So the size of these tools make them a really easy fit to slip into a pocket and carry with you, and ready to pull out and use with your iPad at any time. So they're very easy to access. And like I said, it's a great fit for doing that imaginative play and triggering the imagination of your patients.
So you've seen a little bit about these AR tools. Let's take a step back and talk about why child life teams are using augmented reality and why this is a good fit for child life. The first reason is that these tools are highly engaging. They're nothing, as David mentioned, nothing like most kids have ever seen before. They grab their attention in a way that other tools won't, that YouTube or Minecraft might not. And research studies have found that augmented reality drives high levels of visual attention in the brain, almost double that of the same activities without AR. And also high levels of memory and retention, almost 3 times that of without AR. Augmented reality also fits well into the workflow. We mentioned this before. It works with the iPad that you already carry, you already have sterilization protocols for, and so very quick and easy. And as David mentioned, it's small, can fit into your pocket or into the cover of the iPad case. That means they're also really quick to access. So you have that with you, you can pull it out. So the difference, thinking about like maybe using a virtual reality headset, which also has the benefits of 3D technology, maybe for an IV start, and you have to go get the virtual reality headset. You have to come back and explain to the child what it is. You have to put it on their head for quick, and then you have to prep for the procedure. So for quick moments, it maybe isn't the best fit. For longer procedures, maybe so. Now think about using an AR tool instead. You turn your tablet on, you point, you pull out the tool out of your pocket, point the device, and go. A big issue is safety. So because your patient can see and hear the real world while using augmented reality tools, they're going to be able to stay engaged with the environment and the objects around them. One hospital we talked to said that they had a patient bang their head on the tray. They were using a VR headset because they couldn't see the table. Augmented reality tools don't do that because they let the patient stay engaged with the real world. Your patients are also able to listen to you, hear you, see and hear their parents while using AR tools. So they stay connected even while they're experiencing that magical moment. And we often get questions about whether there are any contraindications for autism spectrum disorder or epilepsy. There are no known contraindications for AR tools for autism spectrum disorder. And although we can't speak for all tools, our Spellbound tools don't have any known contraindications for epilepsy. We don't have any flashing experiences, rapid changes that would affect patients with that condition.
Okay, I think we got our camera switched to the right camera now. Better quality camera, you can see our faces a little bit better now. So we've talked a little bit now about some of the characteristics of augmented reality tools that make them a good fit for child life. But what specific situations and procedures are best suited for using AR tools like Spellbound? Over time, as we've learned from our child life customers, we've identified what we call the core use cases for augmented reality tools, or for Spellbound specifically. And these are the places where we've seen our tools can be used most seamlessly and can make the most impact. So we'll go through these one at a time. You see them on the screen right now. We'll share details and a story for each one to really help paint a picture that will help you understand how these tools are being used and how you could implement them. And because most of our knowledge comes from our customers and stories they're sharing with us and feedback, these stories will all be of child life teams using Spellbound tools. We're also going to cover where we don't recommend using AR tools. So these core use cases, as you see on the screen, are needle procedures like IV starts, blood draws and injections, anxiety reduction in pre-op or before other procedures, or just in general situations in the hospital, or in relationship building. So let's dive into each one of these, share a story for each one to help you understand a little bit more and kind of picture how they're being used, and then talk about why these tools are a good fit for scenarios like these. So the first one is needle procedures like IV starts and blood draws and injections and other similar procedures. So at Providence Children's Hospital in Texas, they had a 14-year-old girl that came in and needed to get a blood draw, but she had a needle phobia. So this is a tough situation for the medical team and her parents to navigate, and certainly for this girl to get through. And the child life specialist that was working with her gave her an AR tool to distract her during the procedure. So during that blood draw, the girl was playing with the AR tool and was not even paying attention to the needle, the child life specialist told us. And the mom was looking at the child life specialist in shock and gesturing how amazing it was. And the child life specialist was just letting her know with hand signals just to let her keep playing. And at the end of the procedure, the child life specialist said, okay, we're all done. And the girl asked, can I keep playing with this? So it was such an engaging experience for her to use that tool that she didn't even think about the fear and anxiety, wasn't thinking about the needle that was happening, and she was able to be focused instead on this fun and immersive experience while they got the procedure done that they needed to do. So if we think about it, why does augmented reality work well in a scenario like this? What about it makes it successful here? And I think there's a few things that come to mind with this story. One is that in situations like a blood draw, IV starts, procedures that are happening all the time, a really helpful benefit of augmented reality is that it's quick to access. There's almost no setup required. Like Christina said, you pull your iPad out, you turn it on, and you pull a card out of your pocket, and you're ready to go. So it's very quick to access. It's also a new technology that kids haven't seen. Even teenagers like this 14-year-old girl, it's something that's new for them and engages them in a way because they haven't seen this before. And we've heard from child life specialists in hospitals that sometimes kids lose interest if they've played with that thing at home or used that app, etc. And lastly, it's also just highly engaging and distracting, engaging enough to grab the attention of a girl with a needle phobia and help her get through a blood draw without even really thinking about what was happening. And what's the impact if we think about that as well? Kind of what's the ripple effect of how this went and using that AR tool? One is that the blood draw was probably done on the first try. So this saves time for the lab tech, for the child life specialist, for everyone else involved. And instead of more trauma that would make this phobia worse for the future, this girl has a good experience, and she's instead able to build up her confidence for future needle procedures. Maybe next time she can get through with less anxiety or even less support if she needs to. And then lastly, the hospital just gave this teenager and her family a surprisingly good patient experience when they were expecting a bad one. So kind of an amazing turnaround using a technology like this.
The next core use case for AR is anxiety management. It can be preoperative or pre-procedure. One of the stories we've heard is that we had a child life specialist tell us that she was working with a 4-year-old girl and the medical team could not get her to sit still for a procedure. The girl was crying and screaming. The doctor and the nurses were trying to calm the girl down, but everyone was talking at once, and the child life specialist noticed that this was a completely overwhelming situation. And so she asked the team if she could try something. They all moved back to let her work, and she took out some AR tools, talked to the girl, and the girl started interacting with the augmented reality and calmed down. Using the AR tools along with relaxation techniques, the child life specialist helped the patient stay calm, and the doctor was able to finish the procedure. The child life specialist told us later, everyone was surprised to see the cards and their effect, and looking at me like, gosh, what did you pull out of your pocket, a magic wand? AR worked well in this situation because it was on the iPad that the child life specialist already had with her, and it was quick to access in an urgent moment. It also allowed the child life specialist to leverage her skill sets while using the AR tools. So she was talking to the patient, using relaxation techniques, and this could all happen simultaneously. And AR provided an engaging experience that distracted the patient from her fear and anxiety and put focus on something positive, delightful. So the next thing we want to talk about is the use case around relationship building. We've heard anecdotally that AR is a great tool that facilitates relationship building between child life specialist and patient. A child life intern named Ashley was supporting a young girl who needed to get an IV for her sleepy medicine before her endoscopy surgery. The girl was dehydrated, and the needle was not going well. She had many pokes, and the IV still wasn't started. So while they waited for the nurse to try again, Ashley pulled out some of the Spellbound tools and let the girl pick which one she wanted to use. And she chose Pegasus, which is this winged white horse, a little magical. And suddenly it was standing in the surgical room with her. And before the patient knew it, the IV was in place. While getting the medicine ready, Ashley asked the patient if she wanted to dream about Pegasus and his princess as the patient drifted off to sleep. After the surgery, before the surgery, Ashley nodded and smiled as she went on to sleep. And after the surgery, Ashley went in to check on her patient in recovery, and the first thing the little girl asked was, "What happened to the princess?" So the child life specialist in this case told us that when she meets patients before endoscopy surgeries, it's early in the morning, they're hungry, they don't want to be there, and she told us, I use Spellbound as a way to build rapport with the patients and even with the parents. It not only gives them a sense of normalcy, but it also lets the patient know that hospitals aren't so scary. In this case, AR allowed the child life specialist to engage with imaginative play with the child, creating stories and building trust with her. AR allows for collaborative engagement, and with the characters that might be provided in that AR experience, the child life specialist was able to build a narrative and bond with the patient over the experience. The experience was simple, and it did not overwhelm the engagement between the child and the child life specialist. I think it's time for a poll.
Alrighty, let's do our first poll. So let's see what folks are thinking after learning a bit about how these augmented reality tools are used, some of the core use cases where they're best suited in the hospital. So here's our poll question for you. You should see this show up on your screen in just a second. And the poll is, what aspect of the value of augmented reality tools are the most valuable part for you, or the most important value for you? And so you got 5 options up here: highly engaging, fits into workflow, speed of access, easy to use, and safety. And obviously all these are important, and so each of these can be important to you, but we're interested to hear kind of what is the most exciting for you about them, or what's the most important value you're thinking about right now. All right, so we've got 40, wow, we have an active group, already 60% voted. This is excellent. By the way, we have 93 attendees right now, so this is really great. Great group of folks here. Okay, almost at 80%. I'm going to close this in just a second. We'll get a couple more votes in. Okay, so I'm going to close this and then share the results with you. Okay, so we see that for 49%, which is the leader, they see the high engagement factor of augmented reality being the most important thing. And that makes a lot of sense, because we know child life teams are, as we talked in, they're always thinking about better ways to engage patients and how to keep their attention, how to use their attention to build relationships and focus. And the next one is speed of access, and at 26%. That's also really important, and that makes sense that it's important to this group, because we hear regularly from child life teams that they need something that's quick to pull out on the fly when they get called into a room when they weren't expecting it, didn't have time to shove tools in their pocket beforehand, and if all they have on them is their iPad or a mobile phone and they have a Spellbound tool in their pocket, they can be ready to go. So thanks for voting. That's great. Let's go back to our PowerPoint now, and so we'll continue with the next section. Alrighty. So we've talked a little bit about where augmented reality tools fit well in the hospital and where they're best suited to be used. But we also want to cover where they maybe not the best fit for child life teams. And again, we've learned about some of these procedures and situations from child life teams that are using our tools, about where it's not necessarily worked well for them, or not a great fit, or kind of challenging to use in the hospital. So I want to arm you with those too, so that if you're thinking about using this technology, you know what to expect and you know what to prepare for. So one of those situations that can be a bit challenging for using augmented reality tools is patient positioning. For example, when the patient's lying down or on their side. In this position, it can be challenging for the child life specialist to orient the experience, the device and the augmented reality tool in a way that is proper for the patient, so the patient can still see it and interact and engage. So that positioning can be a challenge. And maybe the biggest challenge with this would be in a radiology department, where of course, one thing we want to mention too is that Spellbound can't be used in the MRI room because of the tablet that's needed to use it. So it's important to keep that in mind. Another one of these situations that can be challenging is when the child life specialist has their hands occupied. There we go, wrong slide. Okay, moving on. So child life specialist, so when child life specialist has only one hand free or both hands are occupied, this will be a challenge to use it. And we know sometimes child life specialists have to have those hands free to stabilize the patient or to set a hand on them so that they stay still. We've seen that. And if the child life specialist can't hold the tablet or the AR tools, it will be a little bit more challenging to use Spellbound in that situation. Now, they could still have the parent or the patient hold the tablet or the AR tool, so holding that card, or they can put that tool on a table or in the patient's lap. So it's not necessarily impossible to use it there, but just it is a little bit more challenging in that situation. Another challenge for using AR tools would be when patients are having a procedure done where they need to keep their hands still. So if your patient is undergoing a procedure where they need to stay still, can't move their hands or arms, asking them to interact with a Spellbound screen and tap on it obviously is not going to work. And so if they need to do that, they could still listen or look at the experience while it's happening, but it's going to lose some of the engagement factor from tapping on the screen, interacting with the scene, like we talked about, tapping the barrels on the screen or tapping the octopus. And so something to consider there when the patient needs to be still with their arms and hands. And then the last one we'll mention is patients, if they're too young to appreciate the augmented reality experience, it won't necessarily engage them as much as other tools or any more than any other tools. So if patients haven't reached certain developmental milestones where they're old enough to recognize the difference between augmented reality and actual reality, then they may not find interest in the augmented reality tools. That being said, we've had kids young as 2 really love our Spellbound tools. So in the end, it's up to the child life specialist to decide. Just like any other intervention that you're doing, your skill set is figuring out what's going to work for that patient and what you need to kind of guidelines you need to stay in for them. And so, we leave it up to the child life specialist to decide which patients it's appropriate to use AR tools with. So we definitely have those core use cases that we recommend teams starting with using AR tools, but we also wanted to kind of spark your imagination with some other ideas that are a little bit outside the box thinking with AR tools, because hospitals have used AR successfully in many different kinds of procedures outside of those core use cases. So I want to just cover a couple of those, again, to give you some ideas as you think about where this might fit in your hospital. And one of those is catheterization. So a child life specialist in California used augmented reality to distract a 6-year-old boy during a catheterization process. And he was actually laughing during the procedure as he played with the tool to the shock of his mom. Another example of this is scavenger hunts. Many child life teams have brought up the opportunity to use augmented reality for scavenger hunts that child life teams often do to motivate patients to get up and move around, to ambulate. And so they can use augmented reality tools to get patients to the next station, motivate them to get up to the next one to see the next augmented reality creature or scene, or to just use the next tool. Another example of this, of kind of creative uses, is motivation for physical therapy and occupational therapy. And we know that oftentimes child life teams do co-treatment with these teams. At Mott Children's Hospital and Providence Children's Hospital, AR tools have been used to motivate patients to do frustrating or painful exercises that maybe these children wouldn't want to do otherwise. This engaging technology can really grab their attention and motivate them to do something that oftentimes is even hard to get parents to do exercises or adults to do exercises in therapy, but especially kids who don't care about milestones of treatment and are really just wanting to have fun or having some peace from what's going on in the hospital. And the last interesting use case is one we just heard in the last couple of weeks, which is motivating movement for burn victims. So at Akron Children's Hospital, there was a 3-year-old burn victim who was not moving much after a skin graft. And we know that this can often be a challenging time to get patients to do the necessary movement because it's so painful to stretch that skin. And so in this situation, they used Spellbound to motivate this little boy to reach for the mouse, one of our augmented reality characters on the tool, and to make that mouse move. And the distraction was so successful that they were even able to start an infusion while the child was engaging with AR. So this child loved the experience and continued to talk about the mouse afterward. And the nurse mentioned how impressed she was with the success of augmented reality to get this child to move despite that painful skin stretching.
We want to share with you some of the best practices that our team recommends for implementing AR tools. So if you're even considering it, know that there's some steps you can take to make sure it's more successful. The first and most critical one is getting team buy-in. Most child life teams we encounter are incredibly team-oriented, although we do encounter a lot of teams of 1 or 2. But certainly involving your team in the decision-making, because thinking about how you might want to use it, trying it out first for a little bit to see. Everyone's workflow is just a little bit different. See how they fit in and where it might be most appropriate to use it exactly in your hospital. Second is to start using augmented reality in the core use cases first. You can get some quick wins really quickly. It's been proven kind of across the board in these situations, and that's really important in developing confidence with the tools. Technology can be overwhelming, and certainly something as new as augmented reality, but when people understand how simple it is or how quick it is, sometimes these fears can be allayed. And we know how important it is for you to have that confidence in front of your patients. Make sure that you and the team have adequate training. Ideally, it's hands-on, live training. Again, this is about building confidence, being sure you want to introduce it in front of patients. But we all know it can be incredibly difficult to fit training into a busy day. So, so it can only take 15 minutes sometimes. So think about spending time in the next staff meeting or on a lunch break where the team can get together for a few minutes to use it together and to get some real help and support for that. And the last real tip is about having a plan. And ensure, we know you have sterilization protocols in place. Ensure you know how you're going to use those with the tools. Where are you going to keep them? How are you going to distribute it to the team? What use cases in your hospital are you going to target first? Then set goals for success. Like, for example, reducing the need for restraint during needle-related medical procedures, or reducing the need for sedation for specific procedures in the hospital. So much tech gets purchased in hospitals and then underutilized. And this can be reduced by having a plan for not only how you're going to implement it, get comfortable with it, but how you're going to measure success around that. So if there's anybody that is interested in trying it out, we are offering a 1-month free trial for qualifying hospitals right now. What we do is a call with the team, kind of learn more about needs, explain more about Spellbound, and then if everything checks out, we can get you up and running like super quick. So if you're thinking about using augmented reality tools, how do you go about funding them? We get this question a lot, working with a lot of different child life teams, and we've seen a lot of different models that work. The first is you might have your own budget. If you're fortunate enough to do that, great. I know you have to figure out the highest impact way to spend that money right now, but think about broad usability across multiple departments. We've seen other teams find a donor. Might be a specific donor or donors that have donated in the past, reaching out to them, giving them an easy to understand sheet about the benefits of the technology and explain why it'd be helpful. We've had teams put it on their wish list and have a donor pick it off the wish list and donate it to the team. Using other budgets within the hospital we've seen be effective. So whether it's going up the chain in your hospital, show leaders the potential impact that using augmented reality tools could have more broadly across departments, such as, for example, putting into perspective just how many needle procedures are done in the hospital year and how much the pain management around those procedures can impact HCAHPS scores, can really impact hospital administrators, but other budgets from other areas where AR tools might fit in, for example, in oncology or cardiology. And we even had teams fit it into construction projects. So if you think of that, AR could possibly be included in if there's going to be a new room for the children, a family room or a play center, and having AR wall decals on the wall, including it in those type of budgets.
So we also want to leave you a little bit of sense of kind of what's happening next for augmented reality in the hospital. We've talked a bit about Spellbound's tools and how we're currently working on the area of distraction and child life and really focusing on experiences that help with the patient experience. But I also want to talk about kind of other areas that are likely to be impacted soon in the future for augmented reality. So one of those is education. And this could be education for patients. So for example, think about communicating complicated medical information to patients, or prep books. Most child life teams are using prep books. We hear that either in paper form or actually digital form on their iPads. But think about the times when you share a prep book with a patient and it's just not really fully communicating visually what's going to be happening in the procedure, and you want to have a better way to do that. Augmented reality can help you prepare them more visually for what's going to happen in these procedures. It could be simulating other medical procedures like an MRI machine. Imagine sending your patient home with, or sending them before they get to the hospital, some type of tool that lets them experience an MRI from their own bed, so they can look around in their own bed and be seeing what an MRI machine looks like and hearing the sound, so that when they get to the hospital, they're less afraid and more prepared to maybe go through that procedure without sedation. Or it could be familiarizing with the hospital environment. Again, let them from their kitchen table explore what parts of the hospital look like and what that experience is going to be like before they're admitted, so that they have less anxiety about it. There's also research happening right now around how augmented reality can be used with patients that have autism spectrum disorders. And so one of these areas is things like helping them with facial recognition or social and emotional skills, or communication skills, or just learning behaviors that are difficult for them to learn without a visual association with them. And so this is an area that we're particularly interested in. We often get questions about how augmented reality can help patients with ASD. And so if you have interest in this or expertise, we'd love to hear from you after the webinar, as we are always looking for collaborators on projects like this to build better tools. And the last area that I'll kind of, give you a preview of is patient experience. Spellbound's already creating experiences that affect this, but this will go even further in the future with augmented reality. Looking like creative control over the environment, for example, like letting a patient design their room. So when they look around at that drab hospital room around them, they can pick up their device and they can actually look and see an area that they've designed themselves. So they can look up through the device and put a picture of their friends up in the wall of their room, or a video game screen on the other wall. So letting them have control over that digital space to make the physical space feel a little bit less boring, a little bit less like a place that they're trapped. It could also be just gamifying the general hospital experience. And so turning hospital hallways and rooms, procedure rooms, into scenes from an augmented reality game that actually fit the shape of the hospital. So it feels like they're actually in an experience. And essentially turning that hospital into a place that has more fun and more of a game aspect to it beyond just the difficult aspects of treatment.
So we're going to leave you with a challenge. I want you to think about how many needle-related medical procedures that you support in a day. Multiply that out to a week, a month, a year. How often does that take place in your hospital? And how is the patient experience around that? Maybe you're doing great, and that's fantastic, and that's what we want to hear. But really understanding if there's opportunities to kind of switch up the game plan and see how you can stay ahead of the kiddos in terms of technology, bringing that element of surprise to them, something they've never seen before. So thinking about overall patient experience, we've tried to paint a picture of augmented reality, that it's a low-risk tool, something you could try out with the team. It doesn't cause harm to patients. It fits well into your workflow. And worst case scenario, you want to try it out and it doesn't work for you, great. At least you've had the opportunity to try this technology, know what it is, know that if it starts coming into other areas of the hospital, that you and your team are well prepared, that you understand it. AR has the power to give the hospital environment superpowers. It can transform scary situations. It can change perspective, how people internalize that hospital experience. It can engage children imaginatively and create magic that really facilitates human interaction. It's a valuable tool that can complement your existing tool set. It can complement your existing skill sets and be used during your most common procedures. So thanks for your time today. I think we can answer some questions now. We've had a bunch coming in.
Yes.
So
I've heard Anna furiously typing over here responses. So let's go to the Q&A time and answer some questions over here. So first question's simple one. Will we be able to receive the PowerPoint in addition to the videos? Yes. We are going to send out a follow-up email that has a bunch of actually really helpful resources too. So some videos. We're going to have the video of Zahar, that little girl who was getting the shots earlier, show her using Spellbound in that situation. Also send out the slides from this. So watch for that follow-up email. And there'll be a lot of helpful things in that message for you.
And the paper on needle-related medical procedures that we'll be sending out.
Yes, we're going to send an impact paper on augmented reality and needle procedures, and also another resource for you with stories of Spellbound being used in the hospital. So again, you can see more of these kind of examples of use cases.
The second question, what is the benefit of augmented versus virtual reality glasses? So I just want to state that we are a fan of virtual reality. We see huge impact. It's clinically proven for pain reduction. I think for us, we try to target a slightly different use case, really thinking about specifically child life specialists. You're on the go, you're moving from patient to patient. It's going to be different all the time who you're serving. And so trying to create a really broad use tool. So mobile augmented reality, I think we mentioned about like the freedom and having the device with you and fitting into workflow. And I think that's one advantage in terms of being able to use it, whether it's an oncology patient or, sickle cell anemia patient or somebody who's in an outpatient clinic or in the ER, and really thinking about the broad application and again, the quick launch and quick use. And they have both similar impact on the patient. Of course, VR has great use cases, but a lot of times that's a patient in a bed being monitored by somebody, usually having a longer session, and it's highly effective for pain and anxiety management as well in those specific cases. Good, go ahead, David.
Next question is augmented reality for all developmental ages, or is the tool recommended for a specific age range? So augmented reality is not limited to a certain age range. I know some, for example, virtual reality headsets don't recommend usage under the age of 13, like the manufacturers actually recommend that. But for augmented reality, there's not limits to exactly how that's used. And the reason being is that it's similar to a screen in how it works. So a screen of a phone or a tablet, any child that you could have use a screen on a tablet or a phone for entertainment or distraction, you can use augmented reality with, at least mobile augmented reality. Because the way it's delivered, it's not on their face, it's on an actual phone or an iPad. And so it will look on the screen in a lot of ways like something would look that you were watching on that screen. So although there's not an age that is required for using augmented reality, and in the end, we do leave it up to the child life specialist to decide if that's going to be appropriate for each individual patient, no matter the age. We do recommend a general kind of guideline for augmented reality tools that we build working best for children ages 4 to 12. It's the age group that we think will be most responsive to this kind of technology, understand it best, and be comfortable with it. But we also are continuing to focus on tools that potentially could be, in the future, we want to build tools that could be used for older age groups or even adults in the future. And so augmented reality has a really broad application.
Yeah, I think as David mentioned earlier, because it doesn't have any limitations that way, it's really up to your discretion to choose which patients it's appropriate for. So I think we had another question. How do you clean the cards? I'm wondering how they hold up with cleaning between patients. So if you could be in our office and see sometimes us at the desk with all the different varieties of Sandy wipes, whether they're bleach-based or alcohol-based, we print the cards on plastic, the ones that you would be carrying with you, so that whatever sanitization protocol you have in place, you can wipe it down at the same time as you're wiping down your iPad. We've run it through dishwashers. We know that sometimes toys and tools get put in dishwashers. Tried all different things, and so they're designed to be durable. They have rounded edges, so they're not sharp. That way they can be used with multiple patients. We do also have cards that are printed in thicker paper, and those are really not intended for shared use. Sometimes we see teams using those to gift to patients instead of, say, stickers or coloring pages, to leave some of the cards with the patients to take home and kind of have that as the memory of their experience.
Last question here so far. We have some more to pick from, but is Spellbound useful in the radiology department? So we'll say a couple things here. We've actually very interested in kind of usage around MRIs, and so it's something we've thought a lot about. So obviously in the actual MRI room, then you are going to be limited from using Spellbound. And so there may be some areas like that where just based on the medical requirements, the technology requirements of the room, you're not going to be able to bring a tablet in there. So that's a limitation. However, patients have a lot of anxiety before procedures. And so one of the things we mentioned for anxiety reduction is that Spellbound can be used even before an MRI as you're talking to the patient about what they're going to expect, building that rapport with them as a child life specialist if you're working with them on it, to hopefully decrease that pain level, that anxiety level before that procedure. And focusing them away from the fear and anxiety so they can maybe engage with the prep information you're sharing with them in a more non-threatening way, in a way that's less anxiety filled. It could also be used just for passing time as they're waiting for that MRI, again, making an experience less just focused on anxiety, but bring something fun into it that will distract them, or even using it post and creating, kind of like we shared an example of Ashley Bain, that child life intern, creating a narrative with them where this creature or this scene, something is following you kind of from before the procedure. When you first greet your child life specialist, they're introducing it, and then it's following you even after the procedure to keep engaging about, in her case, that little girl, the Pegasus and the princess. And so you can create those narratives in radiology as well as in other areas. And so although there are some limitations for how it can be used in radiology, there's also some opportunities as well.
Question, is it possible to get some information on cost? Can you trial it before purchase? Yes and yes. I think one of the handouts we're sending out is kind of a quick fact sheet, maybe like a value sheet about benefits of it, and has the pricing on that, as well as, we mentioned you guys are going to get if you're interested, let us know about a demo or free month trial of Spellbound to get it in the hospital, see how your team responds to it, see how your patients respond to it.
In terms of a trial, we also mentioned example of that. I think you just referred to that, but setting up a call with your team is the first step for that. And then if for hospital's a good fit, we're happy to have you connected with a free trial so you can use it.
I think we've got one more. That's all.
Any other questions? That's all, folks.
Yeah. So we'll, again, if we have any other questions that we didn't answer in here, we'll answer them and send that out to all attendees to share, maybe give some better answers than the off-the-cuff ones we gave here, or more detail that might be helpful. And look for all the other things we're sending out, the position paper, all kinds of things.
And we will be sending out an attendance certificate for anyone who is attending today, and so you can look for that in your email as well. That may take another day or so. We might send another follow-up email, but just know that's coming to you as well.
Thanks for your time today and spending, we know, your precious time with us for this last hour, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Please reach out. You see our emails on there, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks, everybody.